We're here with my good friend, former broadcasting associate and colleague, Andrew Kocur, who broadcasted with Western Connecticut State University at the local radio station there, WXCI, covered all sorts of colonial athletic events as well as the Danbury Westerners over the summer. And we are joined here today with Andrew. We're excited to have him. We got a lot of stuff planned on the show today. It is the Captain Jack Show live on Twitch TV every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. Obviously, a strange start time to this one, and we will be updating actually the schedule very shortly. There might be some changes coming up in the future, so be aware about that. Andrew, just want to take this time now to welcome you officially to the show. How are you doing, my friend? How's it hanging?
I'm amazing, living the dream and COVID free. So that's all I care about.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's what we like to hear. And uh, it, the first thing I guess we'll talk about really with having you on the show here. I just want to talk a little bit about your background in sports broadcasting. What got you into a situation? What provoked you to go out and commit to sports broadcasting? Do that. Was it your love for the game? What came out and what said to you, hey, this is something that I'm really interested in, I want to do?
So I'd say probably about my freshman year. I mean, a lot of like our local radio station, WXCI at WestCon, really like sparked my interest, but I was always in between because I always had in between jobs and I just didn't really have time to commit to that. But I mean, obviously the love for the game. I mean, baseball's my number one, and then obviously you got football, as you can see in the background, my Patriots and all that. But yeah, I mean, just by doing that and then growing up in Danbury, being around the Westerners and just enjoying the game, and it's just been a really cool experience. I mean, and then starting my sophomore year, I started getting involved, so it was really fun.
What were some of the good moments that you had um, as a broadcaster? I know there are a lot of hot summers in the Westerners press box, and some good moments with. I mean, Western Connecticut, they have been strong over the last couple of years. Are there any particular moments that stand out to you that are above the others, if you will?
Well, definitely broadcasting the football games, I should say. Especially a couple years ago when we played, I believe, Bridgewater State, and we went into four overtimes,
Wow,
and and we won. And
that's
that's in football. And I believe if you still go on our wcsu.edu/live, that game is still there. Um, Not me broadcasting because we had a different affiliate come in and do that game for some reason. I don't know if they foresee the future or what, but let me tell you, it was one hell of a game. I mean, just to call that on the radio with some of my colleagues just was a phenomenal way to kick off the game. And I believe that was our homecoming game too. So that was quite a send off.
yeah, that is a really fun experience to have that. So now, obviously, with there's a lot going on. There's COVID going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the landscape of Major League Baseball coming up. I actually just got a notification on my phone. Yasiel Puig is has COVID. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the game of baseball. I just want to get your thoughts. Obviously, there's excitement there that the game's returning. What are your initial thoughts about the way that they structured the AL and NL? Kind of head-to-head matchups, the scheduling, and everything kind of with how the MLB is doing it much differently than some of the other leagues.
Well, I definitely laughed about the Puig thing only because he just signed with the Braves and everybody was so afraid of that, and now he gets COVID. Like that's unfortunate. But I would just say be careful. I mean, like Clint Frazier was saying how he is going to wear a mask in the batter's box, and I don't blame him. I mean, you just got to be careful. And I think with anything, I mean, I'm an essential worker, and I mean, I think you just got to be careful, do the right thing. And I think the MLB's decision to do 60 games is a little bit much. But I mean, if you could do 60 games, go for it. But if it has to be a shortened season, even more so than 60 games, then that's what it has to be. I mean, I think it's just good that we're getting some action to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that the 60 game season is too long for the MLB?
Yeah, just because of the fact that I mean you're playing 60 games among however many teams, and you have to sanitize those
Mm,
balls every now, like every inning, kind of thing like that, every play. And personally, I think that's just a lot of baseball is going to
mm.
waste. I mean, granted, I get they're getting sanitized and all that stuff, but I mean, if anything, I was gonna say like maybe 45, just to do a happy medium and have a decent season. But I mean, I think with anything, it will definitely be interesting to see how it plays out. And like you mentioned in your show previously, how I was telling you that I think it's kind of crazy that they're doing the extra runner on second with the extra innings and all that.
Yeah, that's a rule that I think is gonna go away. I don't see that sticking.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope
they are
so.
making exceptions. I think that this is a great testing um, platform. How do you feel about the universal DH, and do you think that that might be something that will stick?
I think that would stick. I think that's a really simple rule and not as crazy as like I just said about the second base runner. Just because, like you talked about, how if say you're in a playoff position or something like that, and you're in extra innings, like that right there is that's pretty much an unfair advantage, I think, because that's not that hard to score.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think the universal DH will definitely help batters a lot more, and it'll just be a testament to see how they progress with the game.
absolutely. I agree with you. I think that the DH rule is easy to adjust to. You know, teams can definitely make do with having a less skilled position player who's more effective at the plate. They can go up and they can hit, and they won't have to worry about possible liability in the field. I just think that there's so much room for error with the runner on second base, and a couple of relievers have already come out and said they're not fans of it, and I don't blame them because their job is simple, and that's usually to get 3 outs. There are some that come in to get six. There are some that come in to get one. But a reliever's job, whether you say it's 1 through 6, they're getting outs, and they have a short amount of time to do that. They come in the bottom of the 10th. They let up a little bloop single. That's the game, and you
Yeah,
can get away with that if you're getting 3 outs. If you're coming in a post inning situation, you can get
yeah,
away with something like that. With the runner
definitely.
on second, you make one little mistake that won't hurt you in a regular game, and you just lost the game for you. So that's why I don't think it's true to the game of baseball itself.
Yeah,
It's like starting the NHL on an automatic power play
yeah, I
because
agree.
you were the leader in the third period for so long. You automatically get an extra skater. It, why? Why? I get it. They want to try to speed up the game. They want to try to make it, more viewable by a larger range of fans. I just don't think that this rule in particular is going to get the job done. I think for COVID specific, yeah, we let it slide. It's a very strange season to begin with, but long term, I don't think it has a place.
Yeah, I think it won't like you say speeding up the game. I think speeding up the game already is because they're not throwing the ball around the horn, you know, and they're sanitizing the balls right away. I think that's speeding up the game, not putting a man on second if need be and doing all this. I mean, I think the universal DH will speed up the game a little bit, but I mean, granted, I don't think we're seeing hour games. I think we're going to definitely still see 2 hour 30 games, obviously. But I mean, what I most look forward to. I mean, I don't know about you, but especially as a baseball player myself, when I was a kid, just hearing that sound when the ball hits the bat and just pure silence. I think that's the most blissful sound that I've heard in a long time, and especially when Aaron Judge hits his home runs, you just hear that crack, and it's just you know
Hmm.
by the sound that it's gone and all that stuff. And as much as they're not going to have somebody there somebody being fans and all that stuff there, at least that's something I look forward to hearing, just the simplicity of it. And I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that that's something that we're yearning for as a society of baseball lovers. Is I can't wait to see our players back there. I can't wait to hear the crack of the bat on television, even though you're not there. I tweeted a photo today of actually 5 years ago today. I was at Yankee Stadium. Per usual, I go 3 to 4 times at least this summer, and it was one of those days where it was picture perfect, packed house. This was pre-baby bombers, so the Yankees were still on that weird time period. But it's something that it just your memory is jogged every single day about what could be going on, and it's worrying that we're still in a place where we continue to see spikes in numbers. I don't see a and you can comment on this, what your prediction might be, but I don't see us getting into ballparks this year. Major League Baseball ballparks, I doubt we'll see people, maybe 20% in NFL stadiums. A lot of things have to change by then. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I would say with any either ballparks, stadiums, anything, like every sport, really. I mean, I think it's very interesting because I know in New Britain, if you've been following that, they have the New Britain Bees, and they've been playing games at 50% capacity. And that's a little scary to me, not going to lie. I mean, I know I'm fine, but I always still have my family with me, and I have everybody else, you know, at my side saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do this because God forbid something happens." And I mean, I don't blame them. I think you just have to be careful no matter what. But I mean, as for MLB stadiums, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happening. I'd say in the next year and a half or so. As sad as that sounds.
Yeah. There's not a lot of positivity, I feel like, right now,
Yeah,
in terms of the numbers, in terms of the hardcore facts.
exactly.
Just going into this season, obviously, so strange. We're at 37% in terms of total season length.
Yeah.
We got a strange setup with the schedule. You're only playing people of your region, both on the AL and NL side. Uh, for starters, who is your favorite to come out of the American League as AL champs, pennant winners, going to the World Series, and the same for the National League?
So I'm a little biased, but I'm gonna probably say Yankees, obviously. As much as I wouldn't be surprised about the Astros and whatnot, I don't think they're as dominant as they were in the past, considering they just lost Cole, obviously. I mean, I think the Yankees are pretty pretty aggressive when it came to their lineup this year, and I think that it's definitely a great start to see them having Cole and as well as Paxton going back to back versus the Nationals starting next week. I think that's going to be a great starting rotation for the Yankees, and I feel like if they get the ball rolling right away, then they're off to the races.
Yeah, I think that's a strong assumption. My kind of under the radar thing with the Yankees is how strong their bullpen is.
Yes.
Now that you've added an arm of Cole, you probably get 7 innings on average from him every single time he steps out onto the mound, and it takes a lot of pressure off of your other starters. And the bullpen is rock solid. I mean, Canely, Ottavino, who is a former Danbury Westerner, by the way,
Yes.
Zach Britton, and then Chapman, if he finds a way to get healthy, that's scary.
He's coming back next week, I heard. Same with LeMahieu.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, and I mean, especially, I mean, personally, yeah, you might have heavy hitters and whatnot, but like you said, the bullpen is the key, in my opinion, with any team. I mean, especially with the Yankees, because if they, especially last season, if they had a solid bullpen and if they had a couple solid more starters, they could have beat the Astros, no doubt.
Yeah. I think the Yankees are going to have a harder time with the National League East than their own division this year, to be honest. Defending champs in the Nationals, rising youth group with the Mets, their crosstown rivals, and just the abilities of the Phillies. And look at the Braves; they're retooling. I mean, they have one of the brightest young stars in Ronald Acuna. You add a guy like Puig to their list. That division is so deep right now. And the Yankees have to play the Red Sox, of course, who I don't think are going to be in the shape that they were a couple of years ago. They have to play the Rays, who somehow, some way, it surprises me every year, but they do a fantastic job and are competing every single year. And then you have the rising stars in the Blue Jays. There is no easy route for any of those teams in either of those two divisions. So it should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the Yankees' toughest face would be probably the Braves. If I believe they're playing the Braves, if not, then definitely if they beat the Nationals, then I think they're top contenders in my opinion.
They are definitely ones to make some noise. There was one more topic that I wanted to talk about. You sent me over a photo. We've communicated about this instance. Top moment of your media reporting, broadcasting career, if you will, with this interview with, I'll pull them up right now. You're going to drop it in a second here. This photo right here with Mr. Jim Calhoun. Just talk about this experience, man. This is awesome.
So, okay, this was probably the craziest and surrealist moment of my life because it was over spring break, and WestCon was the men's basketball team was playing St. Joseph, Connecticut, and St. Joseph, Connecticut. If you don't know personally, I think they are a very upcoming group because they didn't have a basketball team at first, so like Calhoun was their first coach and all that. But let me tell you, they're stacked. I mean, size-wise, playing-wise, I mean, they average 25 points per game, like per player. They're just insane. I mean, their tallest player 6'8", their shortest player 6'1". So there's no like days off, you know. They did have a powerhouse of a player who was only 5'10", and he would just dunk on our players, and they were all 6+. And I just think it's incredible what Calhoun brought to a D3 school. But with this instance, yeah, he came to WestCon. I was very fortunate to get a 4 or 5 second interview with him before the game because I probably wouldn't have gotten an interview with him after the game, considering he was a little ticked off, considering we actually beat St. Joseph, Connecticut in overtime. So that was probably another fun game to broadcast. So I have my football memory, and this is my basketball memory because we were down by, say, 25 or so at the half, and I don't know what they were sleeping on, but they fell asleep hardcore. And I mean, from up in the booth compared to like down there, I mean, Calhoun was fired. You could just tell he was all livid. And then we tied him, and then we went into overtime and won in overtime. I mean, nobody would have predicted that. It was just hysterical, considering our guys they're pretty well off, and I mean they're very good. And I mean, WestCon won LEC's last season, but I mean, I think my former colleague Chris Walker said it best. Like, no game is a game when you score in overtime and actually beat somebody that you have an upset with, you know?
Right.
But I mean, that game just was so incredible to watch, and just to see how Calhoun would play and just play these players and use them to their strengths. And it was just so cool. I mean, it was just a really cool packed house, and that environment, because I mean, everybody was there because of Calhoun. But I mean, then you had all the WestCon students, and even though it was spring break or winter break or whatever you want to call it, they came, and I said we had a probably packed house.
That's awesome. Those are the poetic moments, if you will, when you're broadcasting, when you're covering. You have an absolute basketball legend, not only at the state level, not just the University of Connecticut, but college basketball coaches, one of the greatest of all time. You're in his presence. How was he? Was he receptive? Was he, like, oh, I got to focus on the game here? Or was he more of an open guy?
I would say more so a little bit. Got to focus on the game.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very quick, um, sarcastic to some answers, which I don't blame him. I mean, he's got a game to focus
Yeah.
on, and it's like the 2 seconds, maybe 5 minutes before the game started. But I mean, hey, he patted me on the back, said thanks for talking to me, and that was pretty cool. I was like, I'm not watching my back. Oh my god. But like, just I'll read off some of his players. I mean, some of his players like 6'5" to a sophomore that's only 5'10", but averaging 30 points per game, and he's only 5'10", which
Wow.
it's just insane. I mean, some of these guys that he just had, and I mean that was their roster from this past season, and I mean their record overall was 26-3. So I mean it's pretty crazy. And then the crazy one that I mean, just in general, they beat Albertus Magnus in their championship game and by 4 points, and then they lost by 4 points in their Division III NCAA when they started to go. So, and that's when they started playing Hobart and all those other higher D3 schools. But I mean, just alone, they just hold off the teams and they just go on 27-point tears, and I mean, they just go insane.
That's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
When you have a name like that, and as a program, you get somebody with that name and recognition, you're gonna start to bring in bigger and better talent. If there's no doubt about that. So
yeah, he definitely recruited well. I'll
Yeah.
definitely tell you, because I mean, if you were at that game, Jack, you would. Yeah. I mean, for example, like their game versus Albertus Magnus, they only won by 4, 88-84. But the gentleman, his name is Delshawn Jackson Jr. He is only, like I said, 5'10". He scored 46 points in 40 minutes. So,
Wow.
yeah.
As a D3 player, that's great. That is great.
And then the rest of them, I mean, they put up numbers too, but nothing compared to this gentleman.
Yeah.
I mean, just throughout the games, you could see, I mean, I'd say 2 out of the whole squad scored above 10 points. And sometimes they just have runaway games, which I don't blame them because they're a pretty high tier school.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I just give hats off to him just because,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so cool to be in his presence and just to see him lose to WestCon. Like, that was just insane.
That's really remarkable, and that's almost a little jealous you got to experience the presence. Haven't been able to talk to Mr. Calhoun yet, but I'm sure we'll get there one day or another. Andrew, thanks so much for being on the show, my friend. I hope you had fun. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
So right now I'm taking a little hiatus on myself. Trying to better my resume up and do some reels. But I mean, if they do want to follow me on Instagram, it's Drew Cass 123. Don't ask me the name. I made it in middle school. but the way I put it is Drew Kickass. K is short, kick, and then 123. Just why not? It's generic.
Right.
But I mean, hey, I mean, I am private, but that's only because, like I said, I'm trying to better myself and better my brand and whatnot. But I mean, if you don't want to follow me there, where I do daily drum covers to get through this quarantine, I try to stay active. I'm around Danbury, second mayor. You can count me on that. And yeah, I'll just be at some games at Westerners Stadium if they resume back up next year. And I'll definitely be at the Hat Tricks games watching you guys. And,
nice.
I mean, come see me at Stu Leonard's too if you want. I mean,
awesome.
I don't know if I can say these things.
Do you guys have the samples back yet, or is that still yeah?
Not anymore. But I mean, things are slowly starting to come back, and we have like new app that we have to use now. So to get rid of your receipt, we're doing free ice cream that way now. So I mean, hey, I'm trying to be as well-rounded as I can be.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
this time it's a interesting, unprecedented, and you have to be able to just adapt. And I think that it's great that you're you still have the same Instagram handle as middle school. That's awesome. That's incredible. And it's important to just stay active, take care of yourself, mentally, physically. All that stuff's good stuff, my friend. Thanks so much again for being on the show, Andrew. We appreciate your love, your support, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Definitely, man. I'll see you soon.